From pixie dust to poison, you get to choose how you want to show up in the world. And I always say that life does not discriminate. It doesn't matter who you are, what your background is, what education you have. We all have highs and lows in our life. And the reality is that you get to choose how you want to overcome those realities. If you want to sit in the poison, or if you want to grow into the pixie dust and help elevate and impact the world. Our next guest today on the Rise Up For You podcast has an incredible journey, but she has pulled herself from food stamps to a multimillionaire, making an impact around the world, elevating women. And today we have a great conversation about how we can do that, why women struggle with really stepping into their power, being their best self, owning their self-confidence, stepping into their assertiveness, and also the role of parenting and what that looks like for the next generation. So without further ado, let's jump into today's podcast here at Rise Up For You. Hi, Yvonne. Welcome to the Rise Up For You podcast. I'm excited to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm honored to be on your show, Nada.
Thanks so much. Okay, so I always like to start the podcast really just by getting to know the guest. So tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and then we'll jump into the good stuff.
Yeah, so my name is Yvonne Dellos. I live in Southern Utah. I'm actually a family nurse practitioner by trade, and I'm really, truly a serial entrepreneur. And that's kind of how we met, you and I, in Las Vegas, like 2 months ago?
Yeah, we met, I want to say we met through a mutual friend, David Meltzer. I know I was co-hosting the show, The Office Hours, and then we met on site there in the studio. And then we connected from there. And I know you're doing some amazing stuff. I know you're an entrepreneur. You're an author. By the way, I don't know if you know, but your book is like rated top release because we just had a book launch and we hit #1 today, but your book is also in there. And I don't know if you knew that.
I did not know that. So that's exciting.
Yeah, your book hasn't launched yet. I noticed that it hasn't launched yet, but it was showing as a top new release. I want to say it was in like motivation or self-help or something of that sort. So make sure your team checks that out. And everyone listening, make sure you check out Yvonne's book that's coming out soon too. So yeah, that's how we met. So I want to hear a little bit about your journey because you're doing a lot of pretty amazing things. I know that today you have a lot of focus on women in leadership, women empowerment, but tell us who Yvonne is. Like, who was Yvonne when she was in high school? And then walk us through the journey. So Yvonne, anytime that I bring anyone on the podcast, it's usually because I know we're going to have a great conversation. I'm curious. I want to learn from you. I have so many things that I want to talk about, somebody that I'm interested in having a conversation with. And so I'm curious to hear from you a little bit more about your journey. Like, who was Yvonne when she was in high school? And then how did you get to where you are today?
I love that you brought that up, going back to high school. So the title of my book is From Food Stamps to Fortunes. And I actually dropped out of school in 9th grade. I was 14 years old. I was kicked out of my home and pretty much living on any friends or family members' couch that I could find. And I had a really big dream of becoming a cheerleader. And so I've always been really goal oriented. And so I only had one other option, and that was to get back in school so I could apply for the cheer squad. And that's what I did. I had to do the packets to get back in school. And I got back in 10th grade, made the dance team my junior year, and then a cheerleader my senior year. So I actually ended up graduating early, moved to the East Coast by myself to get as far away from my family as I possibly could. And really just started going to school. I went to college. I'm the first generation on both sides to have a college degree. And now I can say I'm the first generation millionaire on both sides because of my education and my love for books. So, yeah.
So let's go back just a little bit because there was a lot in what you just said, but I'm going to take, and assume just based off of what you said that obviously it wasn't an easy childhood. You were kicked out of your house. But it sounds to me that even amongst some of those challenges as a teenager, there was something in you, like this little fire, that when you wanted something, you got it and you did it. So how did you get to where you are today? Like what was that burning thing, or what was that desire that got you to be, the first individual to go to college, get educated, to be a millionaire today, to be doing the things that you did? If you didn't have your family, which I'm curious, like what is it that you did have that said, I'm going to keep going and moving forward?
I've just had this internal like drive. I don't know how to explain it other than that. It's this constant nagging for a bigger life, for more purpose. Um, Now that I'm, almost 48, it's changed over the years. And so now it's a drive for massive impact. But when I was younger, it was a drive for financial abundance.
Yeah.
Um, as you can imagine, food stamps and welfare and hand-me-down clothes from our neighbors. We didn't have much. My mother was single. She had 6 girls. She worked 3 jobs. So I was a latchkey child. And all I really wanted was a full pantry and to be able to walk into any store I wanted and buy whatever I wanted without looking at the price tag.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So what drove you to the industry that you're in today? Because I know you're doing a lot of work in the like aesthetics space, beauty and whatnot. And I want to talk a little bit about that, but now you've pivoted a little bit into that, like the coaching and the women. So why first did you get into the space that you got into, which is the aesthetic space? And then how did you pivot into where you are today in supporting women?
okay. So honestly, when I was 14, I went to a local family clinic to get STD screening and birth control.
Okay.
And it was my family nurse practitioner at the time that just had such an impact on me. And I thought, I want to be like her when I grow up. So that was my driving force to go to college, was to become a nurse practitioner. And then as I did that, I worked for a local hospital for 16 years, started in the snack bar as a candy striper, worked my way up from, doing cardiology secretary, lab technician. Then I was an urgent care nurse, an ER nurse. Then I went into grad school to do reproductive medicine because of, having STDs when I was young, 14, and doing things I shouldn't have been. I ended up that's what caused my infertility. So I went through all the infertility and ended up working as a nurse practitioner in reproductive medicine. That's truly what I wanted to do, was help other women that were struggling with infertility. And that didn't pan out as well as I had thought. So I moved back to Utah. This was in Las Vegas, actually, working with the godfather of IVF in Las Vegas. Came back to Utah, and the company I had worked for 16 years wouldn't hire me as a nurse practitioner. Apparently, I didn't have enough experience as a nurse practitioner. So that's where medical aesthetics landed in my lap. It was the only job available I could find at the time. And after a year and a half working for corporate, really a corporate med spa chain, I ended up going out on my own, starting my own med spa. Had that for 8 years and just sold it 2 years ago. So,
Great. And when you say like med spa, what does that mean exactly?
yeah, so I do everything from Botox, dermal fillers, devices like RF microneedling, laser resurfacing, microneedling, chemical pills. I have an esthetician. So I have a small location here in St. George and one in Las Vegas in Henderson. I don't see patients a lot these days. I only am in the clinic once or twice a month because I have so many other business ventures. But yeah.
And so now you launched your book, right? Or it's launching. And I know that you have a strong initiative and passion for supporting women specifically. Why did that come to fruition for you? Is it because of the experiences you've been through? Is it that you've seen how women struggle in the space that you're in? Like, what was that driving force for you to pivot, sell your business, pretty much start over? Because that's kind of what happens when you sell your business and you open something else. Where did that come from, and why specifically women?
I think it was because when I did become a millionaire, it's almost like waking up Christmas morning and you go through your presents and you're like, oh, okay. You play with them for a minute and it was like, oh, the hype, the fun was over, right? So when I did become a millionaire, something in me switched. And I realized that it's not about the money. And I talk about this in my book. It's something in me wanted deeper, more meaningful impact. And as I was teaching, because I own a medical training facility, in addition to the med spa and booth rentals and a medical conference. And when I was working with these women over the last 7 years, teaching them a skill that was making them a lot of money, I learned a lot about women. And it's that most women live with insecurity. They live by dimming their light, a lot of limiting beliefs, and they're living paycheck to paycheck. They're living small lives. And I was just like, I've got to do something about this. So if you look at, there's a research article by Forbes that states that women in business, less than 3% have ever generated over $1 million in revenue. And I was like, we've got to change that, because I do believe when women make a lot of money, they can change the world. And I really just want to help women have the self-confidence, go after their goals and dreams, and truly, as my book states, create a life by design. I love my life every single day. It's a life I've created intentionally. I get to work from home most of the time because I still have young kids, and I get to work by my pool. My team's here, and then I travel and speak nationwide on the weekends. And so, working with women, I think, is just so inspiring and so meaningful and so fulfilling to see what another woman make 7 figures, provide a lot of bread on her table for her family, and really create a life by design, a life that's, she's not burnt out working long nights, weekends, and holidays, living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah. So we here at Rise for You, we do a lot of work with women in leadership, and I'm always curious to know from your perspective, why do you think that is? Why do you think you come across so many women more often than men that struggle with playing large, right? Or that play small, or have a hard time negotiating or making the ask, struggle with feeling enough? What is it that you're seeing? And maybe it's something that you saw in yourself that you see in them, but the big question is why? Why do you think that's happening?
Yeah, I've always kind of had a big voice. I've been told that I will beat a dead horse. I don't give up. I'm relentless, and I use my voice. I have no shame of my past. I believe everything I've gone through was to help other people, for me to grow and really grow into this voice and into this personality that I am now. But I believe women, society, I think, has a lot to do with it. It's always been a men-driven, uh, world, and women, we are considered bitches if we're driven, ambitious. Um, and I mean, I've had a lot of experience working with men that don't take me serious. And I get this all the time. Ironically, I was pulling into the grocery store the other day, and a gentleman had seen me from the gym, and I drive a pretty nice car, and he stops me, and I roll down the window, and he's like, "Did your man buy you this?" And I don't think there's anything like more insulting to me. First of all, I'm not married. I bought my home. I bought my vehicles. I pay for everything myself. No one has ever given me a dime ever. And so but yeah, for me to say that, it might sound arrogant and it might sound dirty. And so I think there's still a stigma of women talking about money, which I think we need to get over, because a woman has every right to make a lot of money and do whatever she wants with that money. I do believe most women will do great things with it. They'll change the world. And I do see a rise in women in, corporate America. I see women leading companies, and I think we're changing things. And I want to be a voice for other women that have not yet learned how to use their voice, or have yet to build the confidence to step out of their comfort zone. I have no shame. This is who I am. I'm here to have an impact. I'm here to make a difference. I have a big heart. I love humanity. And that's, my jewelry line and apparel line is Love for All Humanity. And the proceeds go to giving back to humanity. So I've been blessed. My book is titled From Food Stamps to Fortune, and not just a fortune of money, but I really have been blessed with a fortunate life. And it's because I've chosen to use my past traumas, hurt, pain, my past mess to be my message, and to be the light and the love that I wish to see in the world. So.
Yeah. So I want to go back a little bit, because when you talk about, some of the stigma as it's associated with women, and do you think that that's still happening today? Or do you think that, not all women, of course, I would never generalize anything, but do you think that you see some women that are stuck in the narrative from the past and are still playing it today, and that's what's getting in their way, versus women that truly are being met up against, like men that don't want to support them, or struggles in the, corporate or entrepreneurial space? What do you identify is happening today in the current modern day time?
I think it's a combination of both. I think oftentimes insecure women will pass their insecurities onto other women.
Yeah.
It makes it very uncomfortable. I think we need to do a healing of the sisterhood, because what generally happens is when a woman is confident and she's near a woman who is insecure, that woman that is insecure will pass those judgments or insecurities onto the confident woman, and the confident woman will tend to dim her light just a little bit to help her sister feel better about herself, when I think we're actually doing her a disservice. I think we need to shine even brighter and say, hey, sis, I'll reach back and pull you up, but I will not dim my light to make you feel better. I will pull you up if you give me the chance. And not a lot of women will do that. It's interesting. I was just at a medical conference. I was lecturing to a bunch of plastic surgeons from all around the world. And another female nurse practitioner came up to me and she said, damn, girl, I am proud of what you have done for our industry. And kudos to you. Like, I just think that's so awesome. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, do you know how much this means to me? Because it's very, very rare that a woman will come up and compliment me on my success of what I've done or what I've contributed. Most women will stand back, will make her judgment or opinion of me based on how I look, whatever. And I again talk about this in my book, is why don't we be that woman that goes up to that other woman, just like Hillary did me this past weekend, and say, you are gorgeous, you are beautiful, and like, way to go, your success inspires me, or whatever it is. But I think we need to really empower and inspire our sisters and not pull them down based on our own insecurities. And then working with men, I've had a lot of men that are like, well, where's your husband? I'll ask him. No, I don't have one. I am the one that hired you. You'll ask me. I'm the director. I'm the owner. I have a director of operations you can communicate with, but she's female as well. So I just have to be firm. And I, for the longest time, would catch myself and say, look, I don't mean to come across as a bitch, but I'm going to be very direct with you. I'm going to have a conversation with you, and I'm going to be very direct. This is my expectation. And so for the longest time, I'd have to say that, like, I'm not trying to be a bitch. I'm just going to be very clear and direct with my communication. And no longer do I do that. It's like, I can talk without emotion, and I am a very emotional woman, but when it comes to business, I can have a crucial conversation, a hard conversation, a difficult conversation, and neither one of us need to take it personal, but let's just be direct, straightforward, no beating around the bush, no, candy coating. Like, this is my expectation. And if you can't meet it, then we need to discuss, what we need to do from there. I always say there's two things that will ruin any relationship, whether that's your marriage, your coworkers, a friend. It's expectations that are not clearly defined, and assumptions. So.
Yeah. And it's interesting when we're having this conversation, because it's really just about energy, and it's about emotional and social intelligence. And we have put labels on women, and we've also put labels on men. Like, for example, the term aggressive. Most individuals use that term incorrectly. If you were to look up the term aggressive online, it's, manipulative, commanding, wanting to take control, wanting to dominate and take power, versus assertive, which I would say most people are assertive versus aggressive, right? And it's interesting how it's an energy play. I don't know about you, Yvonne, but if I have a male colleague or a boss that is overly aggressive, that's just as unattractive as a female. Like, it doesn't matter who the gender is, it's not appropriate.
Right.
But I do think that over time we've put these labels and we've set these standards that it's okay for one gender to behave this way and another gender to behave another way. I do think that's shifting though today as people start to build that emotional and social intelligence, because I mean, you nailed it. It's being able to just be neutral and state what's important to you or what your standards are with clarity. And I think that's the key that I think a lot of people struggle with, whether they're female or male. So where do you see this going for yourself in impacting women? What's the thing that you're saying, hey, this is what I have to tackle head on? Is it helping them build self-confidence? Is it getting them to make the ask and build their own business? Like, where do you see the gap right now?
Yeah, I do a lot of business coaching already. And mostly who I coach are women leaving either corporate or a larger company med spa and going out on their own to start their own. Yes, they have the skill, as most of us medical practitioners do, but we lack the skill of business. And I personally went back to school. I went to the entrepreneur program. And, when I was developing, I invented the aesthetic ER kit, the emergency kit for the industry. And so I even went back to like the Innovation Plaza and I created and patented my own product. And I think there's a lot of women that just keep telling themselves, I don't know what I'm doing. Well, to be honest with you, most of us don't. We just figure it out as we go. And so I like to get into their head and do a little, like rewiring or reprogramming, kind of erasing that past, pre-programming. I had a lot. I've been working on myself for years, and it's something I do every single morning is prime myself for success. And that's what I do with my coaching clients is it's mindset specifically, but we've scaled many women into 6 and 7 figure businesses in the med spa space. So I think women really just need to know who they are. And the only way to really know who you are is to go inward and to do a lot of healing and reprogramming. And it's a lot of like deep inner work. And
Yeah.
then when you change your internal world, your external world changes.
Yeah, and I appreciate how you say it's a lot of deep work, because I think people think that they can just read a book or they can just listen to a podcast, and unfortunately it just doesn't work that way. I mean, those are all great resources, but there is practical strategy and movement and commitment that needs to happen every day. I'm curious, Yvonne, because you shared your story earlier, and I know that our listeners and our audience, a good portion of them are parents. How important is parenting towards developing the next generation of female leaders that feel confident?
It's ironic you bring this topic up because I was just speaking with a colleague whose daughter is a preschool teacher, and she's actually leaving teaching because the children aren't being parented anymore. They're being handed a tablet or an iPhone, and they think that that's a way of parenting. We as parents, our energy dictates our children's energy. If your children are anxious, you need to ask yourself why. Because most of the time it's because you as a parent are anxious or all over the place, or your energy truly dictates your children's energy. If you want your children to be able to cope in today's world, we got to teach them coping skills because they're not being taught in school.
That's for sure.
And the confidence and really how to speak to themselves. Most of our narrative is negative self-talk. That's one thing I take my coaching clients through is several books about reprogramming your self-talk. And, even I work on my kids with this, like all the time. We have quotes on the back of their door in their bedroom. It's just really working on their internal dialogue for success in life and how to cope. So I feel like if we don't be intentional parents with how we're raising our children, then we're going to see devastation in our children. And I talk about this in my book is that people will always reach for a vice better than working with their feelings and tuning into their feelings, because your feelings are a signal. Just like I'm a medical provider, pain is a signal to your body that there's injury. Your feelings are a signal to your body that there's something you need to address, right? There's warning signs, there's health issues, any anxiety, what's that coming from? Like your thoughts are causing dis-ease in your body. Most of your physical ailments are coming from some form of thought that you continuously think or dwell on or worry about. So we as individuals need to use healthy coping mechanisms, teach our children how to use healthy coping mechanisms, because other than that, it's these social media doom scrolling for distraction, drugs, alcohol, porn, you name it. We're numbing ourselves with external vices instead of going inward. And, our feelings truly are a magnet. So if you have I say a shit life, if there's a lot of, chaos in your life, you're attracting that to you based on your frequency, your vibration. So again, you got to do the inner work to change the outer world that you're living in.
Yeah, I appreciate that you say that, because I think I recently just became, I would say, a parent. And I think that sometimes we forget that we can't give what we don't have. And so I know that when people ask me about how my brothers and I built confidence and success, we say it came from our parents. Like when we were young, they had that and they had the capacity to pass it on. But I do see more and more, unfortunately, both men and women that struggle with it themselves. And then we see the cyclical pattern that happens with the next generation over and over and over again. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I got into the work that we do here at Rise Up For You, is those skills are not being taught. But I do know that it's important for the next generation. And I appreciate the work that you're doing with women. And I hope that they also pass that down to the children, if they have any, or to people in their community. It doesn't even matter if it's their children or not, because it is so important for the future of our success. Yvonne, I want to jump into the power section of the interview. So I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So the first question is, if you were to leave the world with one final message, we call it the golden nugget here at Rise Up For You, what would your golden nugget be to us?
You can be pixie dust or poison. Your energy or your essence is always being spread everywhere, all day, every day. So you need to be intentional. Are you going to have your energy be meaningful and impactful, or are you going to be toxic, negative, and gossip and drama? But you're leaving your essence everywhere you go.
You know what? I think this is going to be the podcast title. I love that. Pixie dust or poison, choose. I love that. Here at Rise Up For You, we're really big on values. We believe that values help you find clarity. They help you make it easy to say yes or no. It helps you to create healthy boundaries to make sure that you are providing pixie dust. So what would you say is one value that's an absolute non-negotiable for you?
My number one is love. Love is who I am to the core. So everything I sign off on has a purple heart. My jewelry, love for all humanity, like it has a purple heart inside. Love is my core value. Like you ask anybody that knows me, it is love.
I love that. Yeah. And before I ask my final question, Yvonne, where can we connect with you for our listeners? Where can we find you on social media, your website, all the goods?
Yeah. So I have two different entities, right? So the Best of Yvonne, where I have my book, my journal, and my jewelry line, apparel, my coaching. So on Instagram, the Best of Yvonne, and then on the medical side, it's Medical Aesthetic Art Institute or medicalaestheticartinstitute.com. Yeah.
Awesome. And we'll put it on the show notes. So if you're listening, not to worry, you can click it and you can connect with Yvonne. Final question that I have for you. As you know, we are Rise Up For You. That's the company. What does that mean for you when you hear it? Rise Up For You.
I love it. It's inspiring, but it's me rising up for myself, me stepping up for myself. And I always say, when you fill your cup up first, then you can flow to everybody in the world, to everybody else around you. So rise up for you, like show up for you, do it for you.
Yeah.
Do it for you.
I love that. Yvonne, thank you so much for joining us. And thanks for being authentic with your story and sharing everything, because that's what this podcast is all about. The person is the professional is the person. And so we love hearing the stories, how you got to where you are, the work and the impact that you're doing, all the incredible executives and leaders and entrepreneurs that are listening. Like, this is a way for them to understand that they're not alone in the journey that they have is just being a human. So thanks so much for sharing today.
Well, thanks, Nada, for allowing me to be here with you. And thanks for your work and your contribution as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining the Rise Up For You podcast. It's an honor to have you here. We're all about making you and helping you becoming your absolute best. That's what we do here. That's what the team is all about, bringing amazing leaders like Yvonne to the show to help elevate your potential. So I will see you next time on our next episode. And don't forget to rise up for you. Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Before you leave, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channel and check us out on social media. We are everywhere, from LinkedIn to Instagram to Facebook, at our simple handle at Rise Up For You. On every single platform, it's exactly the same. And we're providing new content on every single platform, so there's something different everywhere. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel, subscribe to our podcast, and connect with us on social media. I'll see you next time.